The wind dragged dried leaves across the driveway as Emmanuel's car slowed to a stop. The tires crunched softly over the gravel, and the engine ticked with residual heat as he turned off the ignition. The sun was setting behind the rooftops, casting long shadows that stretched like tired fingers across the street. It was supposed to be a quiet return. His flight had been moved up due to a cancelled investor meeting. He didn't tell Anna. The idea of surprising her had felt, in some fleeting way, romantic. Maybe they'd have dinner. Maybe they'd even talk like they used to. No schedules, no screens, just him and his wife, and the home they were still trying to make feel like one. But something wasn't right. There was a shape on the front steps. At first glance, it looked like a bundle of blankets, or maybe a trash bag left near the porch. Then it shifted, trembled. Emmanuel stepped out of the car slowly, his heart already racing ahead of him. "Mama," he called, his voice unsure, unsteady. The figure stirred, lifting her head. Her lips were pale, her hands trembling. She sat hunched forward, her thin shawl clutched around her shoulders. Her voice was no more than a cracked whisper. "Emmanuel, my son." He dropped his bag. He ran. He didn't ask more questions. Not then. He wrapped his coat around her shoulders and crouched low, searching her face, her hands, her eyes. The cold had stiffened her fingers. Her skin was almost gray. "What happened?" he asked. "Momo, what are you doing out here?" She blinked slowly. I ate rice." "What?" "I ate rice," she repeated, with shame layered thick in her voice. "She told me not to touch anything without asking. But I was hungry. I thought, just a little." Emmanuel stared at her in stunned silence. "She told me to leave, and when I tried to explain, she said," her throat closed up. "She said this wasn't my house." He felt something tear inside his chest. "Since when have you been out here?" She looked away. "Since when, Mama?" "Midday." It was past 6 p.m., nearly 6 hours. In winter. Emmanuel stood up, fists clenched, and turned toward the front door. It wasn't locked. He pushed it open and walked into a warm, well-lit home that smelled faintly of cinnamon and essential oils. On the couch, Anna was scrolling through her phone, music playing low from the kitchen speaker. She didn't look up at first. But when she did, her eyes froze, then hardened. "You're back early," she said. Rising from the couch, Emmanuel took a step forward, the fury in his chest barely restrained. "What the hell is wrong with you, Anna?" She folded her arms. "Excuse me, my mother was outside. For hours. In the cold." Anna narrowed her eyes. "She disrespected my boundaries. I told her not to eat anything without asking. She's not a stranger. She's my mother. She's always acting like she owns the place. I've told you before, you locked her outside." His voice was rising now, sharp and full of disbelief. "You told her to leave because she was hungry." Anna rolled her eyes. "You always take her side, no matter what she does. She sat in the cold for 6 hours. She's 73, Anna. She could have died. She knew the rules." He turned away from her before he said something he couldn't take back. His mother was still by the door, shivering. He helped her to the guest room and wrapped her in warm blankets. He made ginger tea how she used to make it for him when he was small and sick and scared of the dark. He sat with her in silence as she sipped slowly, the color returning to her cheeks. "Why didn't you call me?" he asked, quietly. "I didn't want to disturb you," she said. "You looked so happy with her. I didn't want to ruin that." He closed his eyes. All this time she had stayed silent so he could be happy. And all this time she had been enduring something he hadn't seen, nor had refused to see. He kissed her forehead. "Sleep, Mama. I'm not going anywhere." Later that night, he returned to the living room. Anna was still there, arms crossed. "She's always playing the victim," she snapped. "And you fall for it every time." He didn't shout this time. His voice was calm, ice cold. "You're my wife, but she is my mother. If protecting her is a threat to you, then maybe you were never meant to stand beside me. So what now?" Anna scoffed. "You're choosing her over me." "I'm choosing decency over cruelty," he said. "And if you can't see the difference, I don't recognize the woman I married anymore." She laughed bitterly. "Wow, so it's that simple." "No," he said. "It's not simple at all. But it's clear." Anna stood speechless. For the first time, maybe, she realized she had gone too far. For the first time, he didn't argue, he didn't beg, he walked away. The house felt colder than it should have, even with the heat on, even with thick blankets and hot tea. A certain chill lingered, not from the wind outside, but from something broken within the walls. Emmanuel sat quietly in the guest room, watching his mother sleep. Her breathing had steadied, but her hands still trembled now and then, as if the cold had burrowed beneath her skin. He couldn't sleep. His mind wouldn't stop replaying the image. Her small frame curled on the steps like someone unwanted, like someone who didn't belong. In his own house, a house she had prayed for him to one day have. By morning, she was sitting up, her shawl wrapped tightly around her shoulders. "Mama," he said, placing a small tray on the side table. "I made you some oatmeal, with honey, just like you used to make me." She smiled faintly. "I'm surprised you remember. I never forgot. I just stopped paying attention." She stirred the spoon, slow and quiet. He sat down across from her, hands clasped tightly. "Tell me the truth, everything, please." She didn't speak at first, but her eyes, heavy with the weight of unsaid things, slowly lifted to meet his. "It started small," she said finally. "Little things." She would speak sharply if I touched the curtains, or if I cooked without asking. "Once, I made pepper soup." She poured it down the drain. Emmanuel's jaw clenched. I told myself she was just adjusting, that maybe I was overstepping. Her voice faltered, but it got worse. I tried to keep the peace, to be invisible, to only speak when spoken to, and you never told me. She smiled sadly. "You were in love. I saw the way you looked at her. I didn't want to be the reason that changed." His voice cracked. "Mama, you should have said something. What would you have done? Thought I was exaggerating. You needed to see it, not just hear it. And now you have." He stood, pacing, slowly. The walls of his home, the pictures on the shelves, the dishes in the sink, the framed photo from their honeymoon, all looked unfamiliar now. He began to question everything. "Why didn't I notice?" he muttered. "All this time, I was right here." "Because you trusted her," his mother said. "And love can make even the brightest minds close their eyes." He leaned against the wall, shoulders heavy. "It's more than trust. I chose to believe what I wanted to see, that we were happy, that you were okay. You're seeing clearly now," she said gently. "That's what matters." Later that day, Anna found him in the kitchen, pouring water into a kettle. She crossed her arms, leaning against the counter. "So, this is how it's going to be now. You won't even talk to me." "I'm talking now," she scoffed. "You're acting like I beat the woman. You left her outside," he said, flat, in the cold. "For 6 hours, I gave her a choice. I told her to follow my boundaries or be treated like a stranger in her son's house." Anna's expression hardened. "This isn't just your mother's house, it's mine too, and she never respected me. She always looked at me like I was a mistake you made." Emmanuel paused, then turned to face her fully. "You ever ask why she looked at you that way?" Anna said nothing. She stayed quiet when you mocked her accent, when you criticized her food, when you made faces while she talked about her childhood. She didn't say a word. She was always judging me. She was surviving you. The silence stretched between them like a wall neither was willing to climb. "I was trying to protect our space," Anna said, her voice lower now. "She was always in the way, always inserting herself." "She raised me," he snapped. "This house exists because she gave up everything so I could have a future. She worked 3 jobs. She sewed dresses in candlelight while I studied. You think she's a guest here?" Anna's eyes flashed. "This isn't about the past." "Yes," he said, "it is. Because you wanted the man she built, but you didn't want to honor the woman who built him." That night, Emmanuel stood on the back porch alone, looking out into the garden. The wind had calmed, but his thoughts hadn't. He thought of their wedding, of how Anna once said she admired how strong his mother was. He remembered how she used to hold his hand at family gatherings, how she used to laugh. When did it change? Had he missed the moment she stopped loving them both? His mother stepped outside, a thick blanket wrapped around her shoulders. "You're out here again," she said softly. "I needed air." She looked at him, eyes kind. "You've been quiet all day." "I've been thinking about everything," he said. "Her, me, you. How I let this happen." "You didn't let it," she said. "You trusted the life you were building." He turned to her. "Do you think I failed you?" "No, my son," she whispered. "But I think you forgot where your heart came from." His breath caught in his chest. Those words hit deeper than any accusation. He stepped forward and hugged her. "I'm remembering now," he said, "and I won't forget again." Downstairs, Anna packed a small overnight bag, slamming drawers harder than needed. As she zipped the last pouch, she hesitated. Then she marched upstairs and stood in the hallway where Mother and sun sat beneath the quiet hum of porch light. "So what is this now?" she asked. "You're just going to pretend I don't exist because she played victim for a day?" Emmanuel stood slowly. "I'm not pretending anything," he said. "I'm seeing things as they are. So you're choosing her over me?" "I haven't made any decisions yet," he said honestly. "But I'm seeing who you really are. And that alone ... changes things." Anna laughed bitterly. "You think I'm the villain now?" "No," he said calmly. "I think you showed me your heart, and I didn't like what I saw." He turned and walked back into the house, leaving Anna in the dim hallway, alone with her own echo. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the kitchen windows, casting warm gold onto the tiled floor. Emmanuel stood at the sink, rinsing mugs, out of habit. Behind him, the house was unnaturally quiet, too quiet. His mother was still asleep. Anna hadn't come downstairs yet. The silence was thick, heavy with the things that couldn't be unsaid. He poured 2 cups of coffee, one for himself, one for Anna. He wasn't offering peace, just closure. She came down eventually, barefoot, and guarded, her expression unreadable. She walked straight to the kitchen and grabbed the cup without a word. They sat at opposite ends of the table, like strangers waiting to finalize a transaction. "I'm not going to apologize," she said, breaking the silence. "I didn't expect you to. I did what I thought was right. I asked for space, and she didn't respect that." "You didn't ask for space," he replied. "You gave an ultimatum to a 73-year-old woman who just wanted a plate of rice." Anna stared at him. "You think I wanted this? To be the bad one? You've never seen how she looks at me, like I'm not enough. You were never supposed to be in competition with her. She made it a competition." "No," he said. "You did." She laughed dryly. "So, that's what you've decided? That I'm the monster?" Emmanuel leaned forward, his voice calm but cutting. "I've decided that if someone can leave my mother outside in the cold and not feel regret, that someone shouldn't be my wife." Her mouth dropped slightly, but she covered it quickly with indignation. "Wow, after everything we've built, this is what it comes down to." "What did we build, Anna?" he asked, genuinely. "Tell me, what's left here besides resentment and pride?" She looked down at her cup, silent. "When did you stop being kind?" he asked. "Because I remember the woman who brought flowers to my mother's hospital bed, who sat beside her and asked about her youth. What happened to her?" "She disappeared," Anna said bitterly. "Right after your mother started treating me like an outsider in my own home." "You mean when she didn't praise you for criticizing her food? Or when she kept quiet while you insulted her culture, her memories, her ways of doing things?" Anna's eyes burned. "You always defend her, and you never defended her," he said. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Emmanuel stood. "I've already spoken to a lawyer." Anna's breath caught. "You what?" "I've filed for divorce." She stood now too. "Are you serious?" "As serious as I've ever been." She shook her head, her voice rising. "This is insane. You're throwing away a marriage because of one argument, one mistake." "It wasn't one mistake," he said. "It was a pattern, a choice. Again and again. You chose cruelty, and I chose to look away. I won't do that anymore." Anna's voice trembled with desperation. "You're making a mistake. I'm your wife. You were supposed to be my partner," he said. "But you've treated my mother like an intruder in her son's life. That's not love, Anna. That's control." Hours passed. Anna didn't speak to him again. Instead, she stormed through the house, packing furiously. "Not everything, just enough to make a statement. This isn't permanent. I'll be back." Emmanuel didn't stop her. His mother watched from the hallway in silence. "She's leaving?" she asked. Emmanuel nodded. His mother lowered her gaze. "Because of me?" "No," he said firmly. "Because of her. I don't want to be the reason your marriage ends." "You're not," he said. "You're the reason I finally woke up." She didn't argue. She just reached for his hand and held it tightly. By evening, Anna stood by the front door, dragging 2 suitcases. Behind her, her makeup was flawless, her chin high, pride intact, but her eyes red round the edges. "I hope you're happy," she said coldly. "Because I won't forget this." "You shouldn't," he replied. "I hope you remember it every time. You think cruelty has no consequence." She stared at him. "This isn't the man I married." "No," he said. "That man was blind. This one sees clearly." Anna turned to his mother, sitting on the couch. For a moment, her expression faltered. Something like shame flickered in her eyes, but it disappeared as quickly as it came. She opened the door. The cold wind rushed in. "Goodbye, Anna," Emmanuel said. She didn't respond. She stepped out, and he closed the door behind her. Not with anger, not with triumph, but with finality, like sealing off a chapter that no longer served the story. Later that night, Emmanuel sat beside his mother again. He didn't speak much. He just brought her another cup of tea and sat quietly while she mended a tear in his sleeve. "No woman will ever come before the hands that fed me," he said. She paused her stitching, looking up at him. "And no son should ever have to choose." He nodded slowly. "But when it's necessary, I will." She squeezed his hand. Outside, the wind howled again. But inside, the house finally began to feel like home. The days after Anna left felt eerily quiet at first, but not empty. Emmanuel woke the next morning to the scent of boiling plant and ginger in the air. The kitchen was alive again. Not just functional, but alive. His mother moved slowly but deliberately, humming to herself as she stirred the pot on the stove, like she had done for years before the silence had crept into their home. He stood in the doorway, watching her. "I thought you were still asleep," she said without turning round. "I was," he replied, "but this smell woke me up." She smiled softly. "Some memories live in the nose." He walked over, kissed her on the cheek and in the heart. They ate together on the small table near the window, the one Anna had once called unnecessary. Clutter. Emmanuel had never argued about it. Now, it felt like the only real table in the house. "You used to sit here after school," his mother said, sipping tea. "Sometimes you'd cry over math homework, sometimes over girls, always with your head in your hands." He laughed. "Not much has changed." She gave him a look. "Oh, I'd say plenty has." There was a warmth between them now, familiar, but reborn. Like a song they both knew but hadn't sung in a long time. Over the next few days, they walked together through the neighborhood. Emmanuel hadn't realized how much of his routine had become autopilot. Now, everything felt intentional. They passed the bookstore where he used to buy second-hand novels, the fruit stall where his mother once bartered for overripe mangoes. She pointed out things he'd stopped noticing. The cracked sidewalk where he'd scraped his knee at age 7. The corner where she had once waited hours for a bus in the rain, with a basket of fabrics balanced on her head. "He never told me that," he said. "He never asked," she replied. He carried that answer with him for the rest of the walk. One evening, they sat on the porch watching the sky turn lavender. "You know," she said, "I don't hate Anna." Emmanuel didn't look at her. "I know, she was good to you once." But something inside her was afraid of not being first. "She made sure she was first," he muttered. His mother touched his hand. "She was wrong, but I understand." "The fear," he sighed. "You always forgive too easily." "No," she said. "I just don't carry pain longer than I have to." They sat in silence after that, the porch creaking gently beneath them. A week later, a letter arrived, handwritten, no return address. Emmanuel stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. "I know you'll never forgive me," the letter began, "but I hope one day you'll understand. I didn't know how to love what I didn't come from." Anna's handwriting was steady but thin, like someone writing through tears. "I saw your mother as competition instead of family, and for that, I ruined everything." There was no manipulation in the letter, no demand, just truth. But it was late, too late. Emmanuel folded it gently, placed it in the drawer by the fireplace, and didn't mention it to his mother. Some things didn't need to be spoken aloud. Some ghosts were better left uninvited that night. His mother found him sitting by the piano. "You remember that melody?" she asked as his fingers moved over the keys. "You used to hum it while cooking," he said. "It's from my father. He used to play it on a broken guitar before bedtime. It made the roaches scatter." Emmanuel laughed, startled. "That's the most poetic thing I've ever heard about roaches." "Life is still sweet when you're laughing," she said. And for the first time in months, maybe years, he felt that to be true. Days turned into weeks. Emmanuel returned to work, but didn't bury himself in it. He came home early. They cooked. Together they argued about spice levels. They watched old movies in silence, and sometimes cried at different parts. No explanations were needed. He no longer looked at his phone waiting for a message from Anna. He no longer looked at the door expecting someone to walk through it. He had stopped mourning the illusion of who she was. Now he cherished the presence of who had always been there, his mother. the woman who had sewn patches into his childhood and still held the thread of his heart. One afternoon, as they sat outside trimming dead leaves from her herb garden, she said, "You've changed, better or worse." "Quieter," she said, "not sad, just ... settled." He nodded. "Love shouldn't make you feel smaller," she continued. "It should give you room to grow, to be loud, to be silent, to be wrong, and still be safe." He looked up at her. "How did you learn all this?" She shrugged. "I had to teach it to myself, so I could teach it to you." He reached for her hand. "I should have listened sooner." "You listened when it mattered." That evening, after dinner, he sat alone in the living room. The drawer with Anna's letter still closed. He thought about opening it again, but he didn't. Forgiveness, he realized, wasn't always loud. It didn't always need words or responses or closure through conversation. Sometimes forgiveness was silence, a boundary, a choice not to reopen the wound. He had forgiven her, but he would never go back. 3 months had passed. Since Anna had left, life had changed. Not loudly, but profoundly. Emmanuel no longer moved through his days out of obligation. His steps were grounded, his voice was softer. His smile, when it came, stayed longer. His colleagues noticed the shift. "You seem lighter," someone had said at a meeting. He only nodded. They didn't need to know everything. At home, his mother thrived in quiet, steady joy. The house felt full again, not of noise, but of peace. One morning, Emmanuel found her in the garden, pulling weeds beside the rosemary bushes. He watched her for a moment, then said, "We should go visit." She turned. "Visit who?" "Your village, where you grew up. You haven't been back in years." She stood slowly, brushing the dirt from her hands. "That place is in the past, son, but it's part of your story, and I want to see it with you." She hesitated, then nodded. "All right." One last time. They drove for hours, the city skyline fading into long, dusty roads, flanked by cassava farms and scattered mango trees. Emmanuel hadn't been there since childhood. His mother hadn't returned since her sister's funeral. The road twisted through. Memories as they arrived. Heads turned. Children pointed. A group of elderly women sitting beneath a lime tree stood slowly, eyes widening. That's her, Adama's daughter." She came back. Voices filled with astonishment, and affection rose all around. People came out of homes and shops, calling her name like a blessing returned. Emmanuel helped her out of the car. She looked overwhelmed. "They remember you," he whispered. "I thought they forgot," she said. "They never could." They walked through the village slowly, passing mud-walled houses, open-air kitchens, and small market stalls. A woman named Miriama hugged his mother and wept. "You gave me your shoes when mine broke during the harvest festival. You remember?" His mother smiled. "I remember your feet were too big for mine." Children trailed behind them as they made their way to the old church, where an impromptu gathering had already begun. The local priest stepped forward. "We didn't know she was coming," he said, "but some arrivals need no announcement." They placed a wooden stool for her at the front. Emmanuel stood behind her, eyes misting. As the priest began to speak, "This woman," he said, pointing to her, "scrubbed the floors of this church every week for 5 years. With a baby tied to her back, she cooked for the poor. She fetched water for the sick. And when she left so her son could one day stand tall." The crowd applauded. His mother covered her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "She planted with pain," the priest continued. "Today, she reaps with pride." Emmanuel stepped forward, holding her hand, raising it gently into the air. "This is my mother," he said, his voice firm. "She is my history, my foundation. Everything I am began in her hands." There was no need for more. The village clapped again, louder this time. That night, they stayed in a small guest hut, surrounded by stars and silence. His mother lay on the bed, her breathing even, her face peaceful. Emmanuel sat on the porch outside, looking up at the sky. He thought about everything: the cold front steps, where she once waited alone, the war that had erupted in his home, and the steady restoration that followed. His mind circled one truth: there is no legacy greater than love, given without condition. Back in the city, the routine resumed, but not the same one. Emmanuel had rearranged things. He now worked fewer hours. Sundays were sacred, dinners were shared, and every evening he spent a few moments in the garden, even when his mother wasn't there. One afternoon, while trimming the basil, he found her sitting with a soft smile on her face. "You're building something again," she said. He nodded. Something that lasts. You always did love to fix things. He looked at her, his voice quiet. I just wish I hadn't waited so long to fix this. She reached over and touched his face. You didn't wait. You arrived. One day, another letter arrived. From Anna. It was shorter this time. I miss what we had. I wish I'd been different. Emmanuel read it. Then, without a second thought, he tossed it into the fireplace. Not out of spite, out of clarity. Some bridges needed to remain ashes. That evening, he and his mother sat outside under the stars again. A fire pit glowed between them. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Then she said, "You've always been my joy." He turned to her, eyes shining. "And I will always be your son before anything else." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "No woman will ever come before the hands that fed me," he added. She smiled softly. "Then I have lived well." Emmanuel made a vow that night, not a loud one, not one spoken into the sky, a vow in his bones, that he would never again allow love like hers to be overshadowed, that he would protect it, honor it, and carry it forward, not just as memory, but as a way of life, a code, a compass, a calling. Seasons passed. The garden bloomed, and in a home once haunted by silence, only laughter now lived. If you watched until the end, comment the word respect, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your family and friends.